Man, I would love to see kind of the old Tyron Woodley show back up. Up to this point, I don't see any reason that he would. You know, man, I was such a big Tyron fan. I love the way that he fought. I love the way that he approached fights. I loved his just kind of kill or be killed mentality, and that's just not the Tyron we've seen. I hope he's changed something and he switched it up and things are going his way personally, and maybe was the issue. But Vicente Luque is just a monster. Now, also, he kind of jumped up in competition, fought Wonderboy, kind of stubbed his toe a little bit and seen a different level. So he's either going to take good experience from that and change the way he approaches stuff, or he's going to fall. So I do think probably Vicente Luque.
Depending on which Tyron shows up, we'll see. If the Tyron that fought last time shows up, then Vicente is going to tear him up. But if Tyron shows up on his game and brings that hunger and that fire back, then it will be a close fight. But I have to think yeah.
Woodley would have to do something different. The way that he's been living and training isn't it for. He's really not doing himself any justice. You know, he was the man, and I think he's just been doing too many extracurriculars in the sense of lifting and music or whatever the fuck. And these other guys are hungry, so it's hard to give anything to Woodley right now with the way he's been fighting. He just doesn't seem like he wants to be there.
Gotta go with Luque. You know, that's a guy who he can take damage and give damage. You know, so. We've seen Woodley kind of back up and circle, and it almost seems like he's people have figured him out these last few fights. So I'm going with Luque on that one.
Vicente Luque. Tyron, don't get me wrong, Tyron's a champion, but I think Tyron was when Tyron came in, I think Tyron came in at the right time to where a power puncher could still, do those things. And even I follow Tyron. I respect Tyron because Tyron is he's a pioneer for a lot of younger black MMA fighters and things like that too. But just certain things that I see from what I know, as far as how hands work and how striking and shit work and shit like that. My man's he not catching on to it.
Tyron looks a little bit more motivated than he has in the past. All that being said, it's tough to bet against a guy. It's when you look at this fight unemotionally, and you look at it from a stylistic standpoint. The last two fights Tyron has lost. He's lost because he's gotten tired and he's backpedaled and he's got low volume. The last fights that Luque's been in, he's won because he's got better cardio, higher volume, and he stays picking at you. So stylistically, if I take the names out of it, I would want to lean towards Luque. However, if old Woodley shows up, that's a scrap. You know what I mean? That can be a big fight. I think Woodley's trying to look for that big punch, man. It's just these guys are too good now. That it just depends on what Woodley shows up. In my opinion, he's still got it in him, but man, competing at that level, I'll say this: competing at that level for such a long time, fighting at the level that he's been fighting at, fighting the opponents that Tyron's fought, it takes the dog out of you. You know what I mean? It wears you out. You see it with Rory McDonald. He don't have that since the Condit fight, since the Lawler fight. He don't have that dog in him. Same thing with Condit. You can only, I'm telling you guys, there's only so many. And this is, once again, no shade. I love all these guys. I highly respect all these guys. But you only have, it's like an energy bar. You only have so much to give with that. You know what I mean? This is gonna sound crazy, but it almost takes a part of your soul in those wars like that, man. It takes a small piece of you. And man, Woodley's been competing at a very high level for a long time, and he's been in, he's fought some really good guys. So I want to lean Luque, but if old Woodley shows up, that's a good fight.
Man, Tyron Woodley for sure. I think Tyron's gonna catch him. I think that it's too big of a step of competition for him. For Luque, or he fought Kyle Prepelic a couple of years back, if I'm not mistaken. I think Tyron Woodley's too big of a jump for competition. I think Tyron puts more.
That's a hard fight because I'm guessing Tyron Woodley's probably getting towards the end of his career, so he probably wants to end on top. And Luque's coming. Luque's a dangerous dude. He's a really underrated guy. A lot of people don't talk about him. It all depends on if Tyron's gonna wrestle. If he tries to punch with him, it'll be a bad fight for him. You know what I mean? But I think he can out wrestle Luque. So it's gonna all depend on, to me, I think it's gonna depend on who shows up, which one of Tyron Woodley shows.
Yeah, that's another very interesting matchup. I mean, Vicente Luque has got tremendous pressure and he's a very strong striker. Tyron Woodley's obviously got a very good wrestling pedigree. I mean, but he's come off a couple of losses, and I'm not sure how he's recovered from all of that. And he seems to be a lot on the back foot, which realistically in that smaller cage, I think is going to play more to Luque's advantage. So I reckon I'll give it to Luque.
Vicente, I think Woodley's kind of phasing out. You know, he's on, I think, a 3 or 4 fight skid, all 25-minute fights. Like, he's kind of looked a little bit worse in each one. Colby finished him the last fight. He didn't look very good. I think Vicente's on his way up, and I think Woodley's on his way down.
With that original flow, head kicks with the pros, picks up the fights or anything in the mix. Getting closer to the heart of the flame, bringing conversations with heavy hitting names. You feel the love of the game.